Hey there, Aries, lovely Aries ascendant people. This is an ascendant forecast. It's a whole sign, Western tropical forecast, taking you from the 9th of August, the full moon in Aquarius, right the way through to the 23rd of August with the new moon in Virgo. Now, in this 2-week forecast, you know, there's some really, really strong themes. The unmasking theme is really coming up at the full moon, and the rebirth through grace, softness, precision and purity are really coming up in terms of the new moon. This isn't the only new moon in Virgo we have this year. A month later, we also have a second new moon in Virgo. Now, this doesn't happen that often, but it happens every time you have a new moon right at the early degrees of one sign, and then the following new moon right at the last degree of the same sign. So there's a very, very strong new moon in Virgo theme coming up, not just for us in the next 2 weeks, but it's going to be really lingering, I think. The lessons of this are going to be pretty intense because the next new moon in Virgo will be a solar eclipse. So it's a big one. So I do think, you know, this is hopefully going to help you prepare on those themes so that you can use them really helpfully, so that big eclipse at the end of September will also really clear something in a pure and sacred way for you. So normally when I do this, I do look at the moon phase and every different aspect separately, but I've kept those out so you can just get down to the forecast in this one. If you do want the full astrological scoop for this 2 weeks ahead though, check out this link above and it will take you straight there. So anyway, let's get going. What I want to do is bring up some useful questions. I hope you find them useful anyway. So I do think this is about what has been revealed and what we're refining. And I've got this as my main point here, that we need to honor the mess that's come up recently whilst not giving up on the idea of the sacred and the pure. You know, obviously things are messy and the Virgo energy is here to clean it up. You know, the Virgo energy has a lot of cleansing ideas and is all about purity. And so these 3 questions, I think, reflect this in many ways. So where has my mask been for survival? I really think of this as a question around the time of the full moon, given that not only is there a full moon, but there's a Mercury retrograde in opposition to Pluto. And what would I prefer to express? So I think these are sort of really important in terms of what is the full moon bringing up for you and how do you move beyond that. By the way, if you do want to know more about Mercury retrograde, which I will be mentioning at the full moon, if you stay watching at the end, there'll be a free preview, or not a free preview, an early preview of something that I'm going to release next week, which is about Mercury going direct and how that might work for Aries ascendant. So if you want to see that before anyone else does, then keep watching at the end. The next question is, what truth about myself or my life has become impossible to ignore? You know, so something's coming up. What can you no longer ignore? And possibly what might shift it? And then as we're coming into the time of the new moon, what small sacred act of cleansing and reordering could help me restore faith in myself? So yeah, these are my 3 key questions. And so what I'm going to do is bring up the 2 charts. But before I do that, I just want to thank everybody that sponsors this channel, that helps me, that guides me, that helps me to understand the direction it might be going in. I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And I'm really delighted that this is growing every time I do a forecast. My list is getting longer. So this is great. Thank you so much. You're really helping me. Okay, so like I said, we've got these 3 questions. How are we going to honor the mess whilst not giving up on the sacred? So this is where it's all going to play out. So here's the Aries version of this chart. This is the full moon in Aquarius chart. You can see here, there's Aquarius up here, and you've got the full moon. You can see the Mercury retrograde in opposition to Pluto. You can also see that this is a long-term thing, Saturn and Neptune on your ascendant. And of course, we've got Mars exactly in opposition on your descendant. This is a really stirring full moon for you. And then the second chart we've got that I will bring up, and this is the position of where the new moon is. Now, you'll see that the new moon is actually the finger of a yod. Now, if you want to know about yods, I have actually got a separate video all about yods, which could be very helpful, especially if you've got one in your chart. But what you'll see here is we've got Pluto, Saturn and Neptune all pointing to this new moon at 0 degrees in the sign of Virgo. So that's where we're really heading. So we've got this 5th house energy, a 6th house energy, and also the 11th. So how are these all playing out? Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. So around the time of the full moon, I do think it's bringing up a lot of discomfort about your social mask, in particular in terms of social agreements and how they feel, and also some of the discomfort that comes up with feeling that you have to do things in a particular way when actually your heart is down here. And you can see, you know, the sun in the 5th house is really wanting to be playful and experimental in your own way. You've also got Mars here just newly into the sign of Libra, which doesn't help you defend yourself very much. Mars in Libra isn't very strong. However, he is really in opposition, and in exact opposition on the day of the full moon, to Saturn and Neptune, who are really, really close to this ascendant point, you know, or to the entrance to the 1st house. To me, this is really showing almost a feeling of shock. It feels like there's lots of pressures put on you to be in a certain way according to ideals. Maybe you've put some of these ideologies onto yourself and are trying to build your life up from an ideological standpoint, and like sort of grounding your ideals. I mean, Neptune isn't just about ideals, but Neptune is also deeply spiritual. So you might find your spirituality is really driving your life forwards. And it is probably going to take some effort, seeing as Saturn's there as well. He often kind of shows us how to do it, but it's not always easy with Saturn. And then it just feels like there's aggravation coming from other parties outside of yourself. You know, maybe you feel criticized for standing by your own convictions and your own creations. And so this feels quite raw. Given that Mars is actually your ruling planet, if you've got your ascendant in the sign of Aries, this is going to feel quite difficult to have Mars, your ruling planet, in the sign of it. You know, he's in his detriment. You know, he's just not strong at all. Mars is really, really weak here. He's fallen. You know, he is not able. It's like he's been declawed, like he's got no energy to defend himself. And so if you're feeling that people are quite aggressive towards you or are challenging you on how you're being, and also at the same time feeling like there's social pressure coming in, and also a very strong, almost social control coming down on yourself, this is going to be very confusing, really confusing, and very difficult, because how do you defend yourself? You might also find that you're feeling a little bit aggravated and not very calm about the people around you. So, you know, you might be sensing their aggression, or sensing their disdain, or sensing their judgments on you. And of course, this is very difficult. In fact, Mars in an opposition to Saturn is one of the nastiest. It's not a nice aspect. We get this every couple of years, maybe a little bit more than that, like, you know, every 2 to 2.5 years, depending on Mars's cycle. But, you know, Mars here in his opposition to Saturn, you know, when it comes up, it's very difficult, and it usually confers things going on in the world, which obviously adds into your own pressure, because we're all relating in our lives according to what's going on around us. So this is almost like it feels like something is lighting up and blowing up a little bit. You might also feel a little bit despondent because Neptune in opposition to Saturn, or in fact, Neptune in any kind of connection with Saturn, with Mars, can bring up a feeling of despondency. You know, like you've got this fire, but you've also got this deep soul yearning, and they can sometimes cancel each other out a little bit. So you may well feel a little bit out of sorts, you know, around the time of the full moon, and that's completely to be expected, really, truly. I really see that things are getting easier. Let me tell you about some of the things that I find really helpful, given that Mars is your ruler. By the time we get to the 10th, which is Sunday, and then into Monday, Tuesday. So Sunday into Tuesday, like the exact trine between Mars and Pluto, I think is very helpful. And to me, it feels like you've got a bit more agency and a stronger way to communicate with people, whereby you might have some influence. You might also find that they're also feeling a lot more influential as well. But to me, when people are coming back into their power, they're less likely to be pushy. I think people are more pushy actually when they're not in their power. And that's why they have to try harder. And that's why they push harder. I think when people are naturally in their sense of their own empowerment, that they don't need to push because everybody can feel what they're about, you know? There's also this Saturn sextile Uranus energy that's really, really strong on the 12th. It's exact. And on the 12th, so 12th, that is Tuesday the 12th, is a really, really powerful day. Venus comes into a conjunction in the 4th house for you, which I think is helpful. So to me, whatever is going on around the time of the full moon, by Tuesday the 12th, there are things that are softening your experiences. You know, Saturn in a sextile to Uranus from the 3rd to the 1st, to me, is showing that there's local support. There's almost a surprising local support. It almost feels like something is coming out of the ether, something you weren't expecting, something spontaneous, something haphazard, possibly something quite exciting. It might be a new project. It might, I don't know what it is, but you know, Uranus is, to me, in this 3rd house, is really showing something that's going to teach you, help you learn more, and help you feel quite funky and I'm very excited in your local environment, and it's going to really help you in terms of what values are really, really key to you. So this is really working nicely. So around the full moon, things might feel very tense, but I think by the time we get to the 12th, you're feeling a lot more powerful. And isn't it interesting that Pluto, Mars and Uranus in their grand trine are all working through these social houses. So, you know, the 3rd about your local community, the 7th about your partner and the very close people around you, and then the 11th about the people that you see as friends of friends and networks, and maybe your tribe, you know, like further afield. And so to me, I think from the 12th, you're starting to feel a little bit more supported and a little bit more how you're going to move forwards. Now, then we're going into the midpoint. This is like as we're coming into the second part of this forecast period from the 16th. So I'm going to go over to the new moon chart, so you can start seeing that come in. Venus is making a lovely trine to the North Node, and so you'll see Venus is here in your where is that trine to the North Node? Oh, there it is. I haven't actually put it in. It should be in there. But anyway, we've got Venus coming into a trine with, oh yeah, that's because Venus has moved away at the time of the new moon. That's it. So Venus, as we go into the 16th, is in an exact trine with the North Node. And so the Jupiter and the Venus trine to the North Node, to me, is really soothing your unconscious mind. You know, and you're really feeling it, say, from the 12th and until the 19th, you know, in this midsection between these two. Now, at the start, you know, I was talking about the questions. You know, the first question is about the unmasking and who you're becoming. And the second part of this period, I think, is about the pressure to purify. And so where I see purification coming from for you and like the movement, how do I move forwards? I would say Jupiter and Venus in the sign of in the part of your home, in the sign of Cancer, is about nourishment, a friendship, a feeling of love between the people around you. To me, this is about simplicity and companionship and a sense of communion. Venus and Jupiter is to represent this beautiful, well, it's just a beautiful relating. So I don't know who is your absolute closest buddy or who you live with at home, but the more you can do to feel nourished and supported, the better off you'll be. To me, this could also show that you're looking after yourself in a new way. Maybe you've got some nice food that you want to look after yourself with. But to me, nourishment is a real key part of this. And it's working beautifully with the North Node in the 12th house. To me, this is an indication, you know, the North Node's been here already for 6 months, and it's got another year here up until July of 2026. But this is really encouraging you to meditate, to journal, to go inside, to listen to the parts of you that you really haven't been listening to, and to move forwards on those. And so between the 12th and the 19th, when these are all really taking place, to me, this is an indication that you are able to connect into something sacred. You're already connecting into something sacred, and it's coming from home. It's coming from nourishment. So I don't know if you grow vegetables or whatever it is, but whatever you're doing that can add to your nourishment, help you feel cared for, to me, like a home spa, whatever it is, you must do it. You know, this is a really important part of your process. This is really helpful for you to feel grounded and in something that's very real, because your body is really real. Your home is really real. And the outside world is just what we're seeing when we step outside. You know, like making your home an important place is vital, I think. Now, as we are moving through this as well, we've got the sun going into a trine, an exact trine with Chiron. So if we look at where the sun is, at this point, the sun is right at the end of Leo in your 5th, and coming back into this powerful trine with Chiron in your 1st house. To me, this is showing that if you're nourishing yourself right now and also listening deeply to yourself, you'll know how your creativity, the things that create a spark of joy in you, you'll start to see how they're healing you. To me, this is indicating that you, like, the more you value your creativity and the gift that you think you've been born with, the more you're working with your unique signature, the more you're healing yourself. To me, any difficulties right now in your healing and you're feeling strong in yourself is really caused by doing somebody else's dream but not doing your own. This is really calling you to follow your own dream. And then we have the sun going into the sign of Virgo on the 22nd. This is coming into a very functional part of your chart. In fact, the next 2 new moons are going to be obviously in this very functional part of your chart, very much about your health, your finances, how you manage your home, how you tidy up, how you look after yourself with your diet, your like fitness regime, if you have one. This is all about the management, you know, coming back into naturalness. Now, as we're coming up to the time of the new moon, remember I mentioned this yod. This yod is really showing that you can really transform yourself in a sacred way. This is encouraging you to absolutely to come into a place of purity, to let go of things that are no longer calling you, to let go of the noise of the collective that's ringing in your ears, to let go of the other patterns that you feel like you've had to do, but really aren't your business to do. Your business is to do you, and your business is to do you in the most beautiful and sacred way that you can. And this new moon is really there to help you launch that or to ignite that into your life. It is really, to me, this isn't casual. This isn't something that you're going to casually do. This new moon is part of a new moon matrix. This new moon and the next one in the sign of Virgo is asking you to refine. The after effects of this new moon, I think, are going to have a long-term effect. They're not about doing something in a casual way. You know, this yod is really showing that, to me, this is almost like intel from God. This is, you know, the finger of fate, or the finger of God, you know, is one of the ways that this is thought of. And so this new moon is pointing you in a new direction. And it's not completely new. It's based on you being like you being your true self without the mask of what you think you have to do to be socially acceptable, or to fit into particular ideologies that may or may not work for you. And maybe they have done, and maybe they've maybe they've expired now. You know, maybe what's going on for you is that there is a deeper you coming forwards. So, I mean, I really think this is important because, you know, obviously the next full moon is going to be coming up, and it's going to be coming into your 12th house. So this is also going to be, I think, revealing some of your most hidden thoughts about yourself. And it's, we are coming into that eclipse season in September. So whatever you're starting around the time of this new moon in Virgo, to me, it's a serious move forwards. You know, and there may be some grace with it, but it might be some grief, you know, because grace and grief, I think, do go hand in hand. You know, again, my comment about honoring the mess. In fact, let's just go back to those 3 questions, and then Yeah, we'll wrap this up. So, where has my mask been for survival, and what would I prefer to express? I think this is about the social aspects that you felt compelled to do that maybe don't really fit in with your true skill set. What would you prefer to express? I think you want to express yourself fully and to have your voice fully heard, for you to really understand that you were born with certain skills, you were born with a certain attitude, and it's that needs to come out. It doesn't need to be silenced. What truth about myself has become impossible to ignore? Again, I actually think this is about, I really, in fact, let me just show you as well. I think this is about you really showing how unusual you are out in public, but not unusual in a socially acceptable way or in a way that everyone's expecting. This is about you being your unique signature out in the world and out in your community. And you might choose to do it a little bit locally first, and you might look at other people that are completely themselves in their own way. But to me, this is about you coming into the strength of your voice. Because you can't ignore it anymore. The more you try to do somebody else's pattern, the harder it is for you to be yourself and to know yourself. And then what small sacred act of cleansing or reordering could help me restore faith in myself? Well, that's an interesting one. I think this small sacred act of reordering starts, like I said, between the 12th and the 19th, with these gorgeous, lovely trines to the North Node, and also the conjunction between Venus and Jupiter. This is gentleness at home, gentleness with you. The 4th is the most private place in the chart. It's right at the bottom of the chart. So to me, your sacred act of cleansing and reordering starts at home in privacy, almost like in a womb-like space. To me, this is an opportunity for you to really go deep into yourself and maybe like shut the world out for a bit. Take time for yourself. This is the most private ones. Out of all the readings I'm going to be doing, this is the one that's most private. So I'm leaving that there for you. Now, I mentioned at the start that if you would like to know more about what's going on when Mercury goes direct on the 12th, on the 11th, on Monday, and how you move forwards with that, how you reclaim your voice, then just listen up to this next one that's coming up right now. Lots and lots of love to you. Bye for now.